Hi, I'm Janet Beard, the author of The Atomic City Girls. I want to tell you today about my new book, The Ballad of Laurel Springs, which is a novel that tells the stories of 8 generations of women in one family in East Tennessee. And each chapter follows a new woman's story, and moves through time. And they're also each inspired by different Appalachian folk songs. I have some gospel in there, some blues, and a lot of ballads. In particular, these certain kinds of old ballads that we call murder ballads, which usually, as it sounds like, tells the story of a girl getting murdered. These are really awful stories, but I've always been fascinated with them and wondered, why? Why did people write songs about this? Why have they been around for so long? And how does sharing these songs and these stories affect people? How does it change the stories to have them repeated through the generations? So that's sort of what the book is about. It's also about a place, and it's a place that's really dear to my heart because it's the place where I grew up, in the Great Smoky Mountains, specifically Sevier County, Tennessee, which you may be familiar with if you've ever visited Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge or Dollywood. That is where I'm from, and the book is a sort of fictionalized version of those communities, which anyone who's visited will probably recognize. I have deep roots in Appalachia. It's where my family's been for generations. So it was a real pleasure to me to write this book, really looking at that culture and where I come from. So I would love to read to you a little bit from the book. This is a chapter called The Knoxville Girl, and this particular chapter takes place, it starts out in the early 1980s, and is focused on the character of Carrie. I want to say that the accident of where I was born is not important to me in any fundamental way, but I know that isn't true. I was as formed by the place where I grew up as by my parents, my genetic predispositions, or anything else, most certainly in the way I saw the world and what I knew to be my place in it. Is it like that for everyone? Probably not. Some places are more resonant than others, or more distinctive, or more inescapable. Not that I really had any trouble escaping when the time was right, but did I really leave my Appalachian mountain home behind, or does the old chestnut hold true? You can take the girl out of the holler, but you can't take the holler out of the girl. I can still sing the Appalachian ballads my grandmother taught me as a child. Perhaps it is to my detriment that I never had a child of my own to pass the songs down to. On the other hand, the preservation of traditional music is probably not a good enough reason to bring new life into this world. Grandpa Polly knew a lot of the old songs, and she loved to sing. She lived with us until her death when I was 8, and often sang to herself as she kneaded dough or worked at her sewing machine, or later, when she was too sick to do much more than just sit. Still, she sang, and I loved her songs, especially the murder ballads. These seemingly cobwebbed and moth-eaten tunes told shocking stories, most often of men killing their girlfriends and dumping their bodies into rivers. Now, I'm disgusted by the endless variety of TV shows about women being murdered, repulsed by the steady stream of true crime exposés narrated in husky tones, shocking us, warning us, titillating us. But as a child, I was fascinated by those songs, and I see how they all speak of the same thing. There will always be a few who murder, and many who want to hear about it. Sing the Knoxville Girl, I'd plead to Grandma as she idly worked on a crossword in her favorite easy chair. It was my favorite ballad, since it mentioned the city where I was born. Grandma sang loud and clear, and even though the singer is supposed to be a man, I thought the tune suited her voice. They carried me down to Knoxville and put me in a cell. My friends all tried to get me out, but none could go my bail. I'm here to waste my life away down in this dirty old jail. Because I murdered that Knoxville girl, the girl I loved so well. When she finished, the words hung in the stale air of our living room. The song was horrifying and marvelous, though I struggled to understand it. Why would a man kill a girl he loved? I asked. I was very young then, and didn't yet know much about the world. Well, thank you for listening, and I hope that will inspire you to check out the Ballad of Laurel Springs. Happy reading. Thanks.